Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode in our WCW What If series in TEW 2020. I, of course, am CR Daredevil, and it's the first Nitro of 1997, and boy, is it kind of a somberish mood for WCW. If you missed Starrcade 1996, you definitely should go back and watch that before you watch this episode. Um, there's a lot that happened at that show that you need to go check out. On top of that, if you missed it, the recap, or at least somewhat the partial recap of 1996, is up on the channel as well. So you should definitely go back and watch that, um, and kind of see how the world broke down, or at least partway through, like we did with the save, unfortunately. But see how that played out and how things went from there. So we have a little bit of a somber mood here tonight, as at last chance to turn back if you didn't watch this episode. At WCW Starrcade 1996, we witnessed essentially the takeover of the New World Order. We witnessed Paul Levesque become the new WCW United States Champion, and we witnessed Bret Hart become the new WCW World's Heavyweight Champion, thanks to, surprisingly, the interference of Eric Bischoff. I'm not sure what happened, but we're going to have to find out what happens here on Nitro tonight, which we are going to do right off the bat in front of 15,484 people in the Pyramid Arena. We open up with the New World Order out in the ring. They are bragging about their night last night at Starrcade. Ted DiBiase says that the next step of the plan was completed with every member of the NWO getting championship gold at Starrcade. Just like that, WCW is reeling even more in this war against the New World Order, especially now that they control the company as well. This brings out Eric Bischoff wearing an NWO shirt to a chorus of boos. Bischoff joins the group in the ring and says that for the past 24 hours there's been one question: why? Why did Eric Bischoff do what he did? Why, you ask? Because he plans to destroy World Championship Wrestling. He says that he is going to set out to destroy this company. He doesn't give any specific reasons why, but he does say that that's why he signed the deals to bring the individual members of the New World Order to WCW, and that is why he's going to watch the company burn to the ground. So, no idea why Eric Bischoff is apparently doing this, but apparently he's out to set the company on fire. He's there here to watch the company burn to the ground. No idea why. He's been with the company for a few years now, so we have no idea why he's choosing to do this, but we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see how things play out in the future. Get to 77. Bischoff's a little underwhelming. He doesn't have a whole lot of popularity right now, especially since he's been off TV for months now, but we're gonna have to see. Maybe in due time we're gonna find out why Eric Bischoff is having this mindset. We're not sure. But one thing is for sure: these six men, known as the New World Order, could potentially be, or at least are planning to be, the death of World Championship Wrestling. After that, we get a promo backstage with Gene Okerlund interviewing Dean Malenko, the WCW World Television Champion, and Megumi Kudo, the WCW Women's World Champion. Both individuals were able to retain / win, if you will. They became victorious in their respective championship matches at Starrcade. Malenko has a TV title defense here tonight, but this interview is more so with Megumi Kudo. Malenko does talk towards the end, but it's kind of a little bit more prominent with Kudo. Scooter talks about being the first ever WCW Women's World Champion and how she plans to bring prestige and honor to American women's wrestling. She kind of notes that that it's a little bit different over here than it is in Japan when it comes to women's wrestling, but that she wants to help put American women's wrestling on the map and plans to do so as the WCW Women's World Champion. Then, before the interview is done, Dean Malenko kind of briefly talks about defeating Jericho once and for all last night, not having to worry about him anymore, and how he's going to be looking forward to the next challenger for his TV title. 56 rating here. Kind of a little bit to be expected here because Malenko not really that great on the microphone. Kudo's kind of there on the microphone, so kind of what it is there. But I'm pretty sure by the end of the night we'll have made up for the somewhat lower segments we've had to start off the show. After that, we have our first matchup of the evening, in which Dean Malenko in 7:35 defeats Yoshihiro Tajiri by submission with a Texas Cloverleaf to make defense number 5 of the WCW World Television Championship. 71 rating for this, 80 from Malenko, 39 from Tajiri. A little bit of a surprising moment, as somebody came out on the stage to watch the match partway through. It wasn't Jericho, though. It was a different Chris. Chris Benoit of the Four Horsemen came out onto the stage and was watching the last couple minutes or so. No idea why. Maybe he wants a TV title shot. Maybe he sees something in Dean Malenko. I don't know. I do not know, but he was out there watching the match. So we're going to have to see what that leads to in the future. But Chris Benoit has a pretty big matchup here tonight. And he's out here apparently watching this match ahead of that matchup. I don't know why, but he's out here watching this match. So we'll have to see where things go from there. But nevertheless, defense number 5 for Dean Malenko and the television championship. After that, we get Harlem Heat backstage, with Booker expressing disappointment and being unable to get the WCW World Tag Team Championships back last night, falling short in their matchup against Sean Waltman and Jerry Lynn of the New World Order. Booker talks about losing the titles and the rematch. Talks about how losing the titles and the rematch, I forgot to put the how in there. Talks about how losing the titles and the rematch means that they will have to earn that title shot once again if they want the titles at all. A snicker is heard off camera with the mention of that. The camera shows Chris Jericho standing there. Booker asks what's so funny, and Jericho says that he's just watching the loser show play out. He's just watching this loser show play out in front of him, apparently. Booker points out that Jericho also lost last night. In fact, he lost the ability to ever challenge Dean Malenko for the TV title again for the remainder of Malenko's reign, unlike, Harlem Heat, who can challenge Waltman and Lynn once again for the tag titles. Jericho gets annoyed by this comment and demands a match tonight. He's getting in the face of Booker T at this point. He demands a match tonight against Stevie Ray. Booker looks a little annoyed by this, but Stevie Ray steps up to him and accepts the match. So tonight it's going to be Jericho. It's going to be Chris Jericho and Stevie Ray one-on-one in what should be an interesting matchup. 87 rating for the segment. Very good stuff there as Chris Jericho. Definitely improvising well, having a hot catchphrase, getting the crowd hotter. He is definitely one of our better talkers at this point in our company. After that, we have Cactus Jack, who has a sit-down interview with Gene Okerlund. Jack talks about his dream growing up of being a world champion and how he may be a bit more hardcore than he ever planned to be, but if it leads to the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, then so be it. Cactus Jack is then asked about the New World Order and says that he's crossed paths with him before. In fact, he still plans on coming after Paul Levesque in due time. But he knows that he has to keep his head on a swivel around the NWO, and they may just show up next week at Clash of Champions with some backup. Of course, Clash of Champions is set to be next week. Not going to be a big amount of time and build for it because it's kind of a minor event. It's not really a bigger show. So it's going to be kind of like not that there still might not be like a title change or two or some big matches happening in the show, but it's going to be kind of seen as a little bit more of a minor show compared to the show before it, Starrcade, and then the show after it in February, which is Super Brawl. So obviously those are going to be kind of the two big shows. It's kind of like it's It's kind of like how in real life, how in current day WWE, how you have like the Royal Rumble, and then you have the quote unquote throwaway pay-per-view or premium live event as they call them now, in February, and then of course you have WrestleMania. Like it's kind of that weird one in between like two big events. So that's kind of the idea here. So that's why we're kind of, we're doing it this coming, not this coming Thursday, the following Thursday is when that'll happen. But Cactus Jack saying he might show up with some backup, might have some backup in that world title matchup, which obviously would be a good thing at this point because who knows what the NWO would have up their sleeve in order to stop him. 88 rated segment, usual good stuff from Cactus there. After that, we get that match between Jericho and Stevie Ray, and in 8:31 with a quick roll-up, Chris Jericho is able to get the victory over Stevie Ray. Lance Storm providing distraction on Stevie Ray. Booker T chased him off, but the distraction was enough for Jericho to get the victory. 72 rating for the match, 70 from Jericho, 54 from Stevie Ray. Jericho benefited from having a hot new move. He's definitely has a chance to be a big star in the near future for us, for sure. But you gotta kind of build him up the right way. But 72 rating, can't go wrong with that there at all, as he gets a victory over Stevie Ray. After that, Jericho and Lance Storm are quickly leaving the ringside area, with Jericho celebrating like he just won a championship for some reason. I don't know why he's celebrating that way. Stevie Ray looks disappointed in the loss as Booker expressed frustration over the loss as well. 70 rating there. Harlem Heat kind of stumbling recently, kind of having some struggles. You're going to have to see where things go from there, as now they may have to be dealing with Chris Jericho and Lance Storm. And, we'll just see. I'm got to imagine this wasn't a one-off, that there's going to be something continuous in the future here. After that, we get a brief interview from Cutie Suzuki, who has Alex Wright with her. Suzuki gets interviewed, that is, about the recent actions of the Horsemen's Mariko Yoshida and Marcus Bagwell. Of course, those two attacked Alex Wright and Cutie Suzuki on Nitro recently. Suzuki talks about the excitement she has for Megumi Kudo winning the Women's World Championship last night, and how she's hoping to get a shot at the championship sometime in the near future. For now, though, she focuses on Yoshida and says that she never meant to start something between them, but she's not going to back down from any challenge at all. So, a little bit of a interview there as we kind of continue on that story. Like I said before, it was a story that started on Saturday night, but it's going to be kind of bouncing back and forth between the two. There might be some more minor-ish stuff happening on Nitro, while some of the bigger stuff happens on Saturday night, but we'll see how it plays out. Cutie Suzuki performed poorly in the segment. That's another thing too. I'm trying to build up the women when it comes to their promo skills. So putting them in promos on Nitro might actually help them out with that. Then after that, in a match that does not do that well because all of them were unimportant, I needed to do it on Nitro because I have to build up this division somehow. Because as of right now, the only person who has recognizable status in the division is Medusa, so I have to build him up somehow. In about the head terrible wrestling that exists, the crowd heat, Cutie Suzuki and Jacqueline were able to defeat Mariko Yoshida and Kaio Noemi in 507 when Jacqueline gets the submission on Noemi. Cutie Suzuki and Mariko Yoshida not involved in the final decision of the matchup, so their storyline continues on for sure. Pretty good ratings across the board there. Jacqueline with a 47, Kaio with a 40, 39 from Yoshida, and 33 from Suzuki. Actually, that's a little bit lower than she normally gets, but nevertheless, we'll take it. 25 rating for the match. Again, it is what it is. I gotta expect that the show will get brought back up again towards the end of it, but for now, we'll take what we get at this point. Gotta build up these women somehow. After that, Roddy Piper's in his office, and he talks about a couple matches that have been booked for the upcoming Clash of Champions event next Thursday, including the world title matchup between champion Bret Hart and challenger Cactus Jack. We are going to have a rematch for the WCW United States Championship, as the new champion Paul Levesque will be defending against the former champion Dustin Rhodes. And then we're also going to see a WCW Television Championship matchup between champion Dean Malenko and challenger Meng. That is right. As I mentioned in an offhanded comment a few weeks ago on, I think it was in an episode of Nitro, Meng, when he got injured as the TV champion before, he was told that when he comes back, he can challenge for the TV title again, or he can challenge for any championship he wants. He's choosing to, that championship opportunity is finally being cashed in, and he's choosing to challenge Dean Malenko for the television championship. So we're gonna have to see if Dean Malenko can actually survive Meng at this point, or if Meng suffers another big loss. Nevertheless, 80 rating as we get those 3 matches set. We'll have a couple of other matches get announced for that show as well. It's not going to be a super long show. It's only going to be like a 2.5 hour show. In game, that is. So, only going to have maybe 6 or so matches. 6, 7 matches maybe at most. Every championship will be on the line. But other than that, there might be 1 or 2 other non-title matches happening. I'm not sure yet. But we'll have to see how that plays out. It also might be just only championship matches happening. We'll have to see. After that, Dustin Rhodes, speaking of, he has a promo where he says he's going to admit the truth. He admits that Paul Levesque was the better man last night. However, Levesque won't be the better man at Clash of Champions. Dustin Rhodes will give the WCW United States Championship back. And as for Steve Austin, once Rhodes gets the championship back, that is, he will have no problem defending the championship against him as well. 97 rating. Getting the crowd hotter once again, as Dustin Rhodes is another big promo person in our company right now. He's looking to recapture the United States Championship after not getting the job done at Starrcade. Of course, despite the fact that he lost the title, I think the bigger talking point out of the United States Championship picture at Starrcade was that Steve Austin got attacked before the show started and was taken out of that title matchup, which made it a 1-on-1 matchup. So you gotta imagine that if Steve Austin had been a part of that match, maybe the match result would have turned out differently. I'm not sure, but nevertheless, Rhodes looking to get that title back next Thursday night. Then, in about the head, superb wrestling in a great heat, Brian Pillman defeats Barry Windham in 10:50 by pinfall with an air Pillman, gets a 76 rating. 96 from Pillman, 76 from Barry Windham. I'm not sure why I only did a 76. Was it because of time? Normally I don't look at this. I kind of want to see this. Oh, lack of associated storyline too. Yeah, I didn't have an associated storyline attached to this. Probably should have done that. Oh well. Nevertheless, Brian Pillman, of course, the winner of World War III 1996, gets a title opportunity, gets a shot at the world title anytime between now and November. Getting a victory here on Nitro over the former United States champion Barry Windham. Pillman looking good in the victory and keeping his momentum going, heading through the start, that is, of 1997. After that, we have a very interesting segment happening as Eddie Guerrero is backstage with Gene Okerlund. And he expresses the disappointment of losing to Steven Regal last night. Quick note, I'm pretty sure I brought it up in the recap of 96 thing. I've brought it up in the last couple episodes at some point. But Steven Regal technically out for a year with his hip tendonitis injury. He's still able to work through it, but he's not going to be quite the same. I did run him in a pre-show bout just to see how much it affected him, and he still had an 81, so he's hurt by it, but he's not super hurt by it. It's one that he still can do at least low 80s, upper 70s probably in his in-ring performances, so it probably won't affect him too much when it comes to in-ring work, but it's going to be a little bit of a step away from the main event push he was starting to get there. I'm going to have to kind of figure out how exactly I'm going to work that around. I have a few plans in mind, but I haven't fully dedicated myself to having a specific plan in mind for Steven Regal at this point during this next year that he's going to be consistently injured. Other than just, being a 90% promo guy who's only really having matches here and there kind of thing, I guess. Nevertheless, Eddie Guerrero lost to Steven Regal at Starrcade, but does mention that they are 1-1 against each other now, and so that means at some point the third match will happen between the two of them. However, he wants to focus attention back on trying to get another shot at the WCW World Heavyweight Championship once again. But before he can continue, he gets interrupted by the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Flair laughs at the idea of Guerrero challenging for the world title again, saying that his opportunity at World War III was a fluke and never would have happened if Flair and the rest of the Horsemen weren't focused on making sure Pillman won World War III. The idea being that if the group wasn't focused on Brian Pillman trying to win World War III, that maybe Flair or somebody else would have had a shot. Somebody else in the group would have had a shot at the world title, and so Eddie Guerrero never would have had the shot, I guess. I don't know. But Guerrero steps up to Flair. Flair just kind of laughs again at this and says that if Guerrero's going to step up to the Nature Boy, he better get some more victories under his belt, because right now Guerrero is nowhere near Flair's level. Flair walks off as Guerrero looks on, annoyed. 100 rated segment. Strong words from Ric Flair, but I mean, he's not exactly wrong. Eddie Guerrero has not had a victory in over a month's time. He's had 3 matches since winning that number 1 contenders match against Steven Regal before World War III. Sorry, he might have had 4 matches. I think he had a match right before World War III. But nevertheless, he had a match at World War III and lost. Then he had a match on Nitro, which was a tag team matchup, where he teamed up with Sting to take on Vader and Steven Regal, and he lost that. And then he went on to Starrcade, and he lost again. So he's kind of on the losing end right now. So we'll have to see if Eddie Guerrero can turn things around. But Flair says he's not on his level, so we'll have to see if Guerrero can turn things around and step up to Ric Flair, or if he even really bothers with it. I mean, who's to say that Ric Flair is the one you have to go through to get a shot at the WCW World Heavyweight Championship? I mean, granted, Flair held that championship multiple times, but who's to say that he's the one you have to go through at this point? Who knows? Nevertheless, we'll have to see how that plays out in the near future. After that, Diamond Dallas Page has a backstage promo where he's expressing some disappointment in not getting the job done against Ric Flair last night at Starrcade. Of course, didn't really mention it during the Flair Guerrero thing, but if Ric Flair was able to get the victory over Diamond Dallas Page and kind of shut down Page's whole story, I guess. Probably some surprise as to why the match was booked that way. You'll see as time comes on. Page talks about not letting him get him down, though, and focusing on making 1997 his year until back-to-back promos get back-to-back interrupted. This time, Diamond Dallas Page gets interrupted by Vader and Percy Pringle. Pringle asks why WCW is wasting TV time on a loser like Page. And when Page steps up to Pringle, Vader prevents him from doing so, kind of getting in between them and standing there face-to-face with Page. A stare down between Page and Vader happens as Page tells them that Flair is a better wrestler than Vader has ever been. So if Vader has a problem with this quote-unquote loser speaking, all he has to do is go to the ring and do something about it. Page then does the Diamond Cutter sign and says bang right to Vader before leaving. So kind of admits that, yeah, he lost to Flair, but Flair's a better wrestler than Vader. So just because he lost to a really great wrestler like Flair doesn't mean that he would lose lose to somebody like Vader. So I'll have to see how that plays out. But 88 rating for the segment. Very good stuff here. And we'll have to see where this leads in the near future. Then after that, in our main event of the evening, about to head superb wrestling great heat. Sting defeats Chris Benoit in 10:58 by submission with the Scorpion Deathlock. Only gets an 83 because there wasn't a storyline associated with the matchup. Sting, of course, coming off that loss to Vader last night. And Chris Benoit not really involved in a specific storyline right now. Or at least seemingly not involved in any specific storyline right now. But Sting is able to get the victory by submission with the Scorpion Deathlock, getting a little bit of his momentum back after losing to Vader last night. 83 rating. 81 from Sting, 89 from Benoit. So Benoit was actually the better performer, but Sting gets the victory nonetheless. After the match, though, Sting is celebrating the victory until he gets spun around and grabbed by the throat. He then gets chokeslammed by the Giant. The Giant roars out loud, clearly unhappy by how last night went for him. Of course, we haven't heard or seen the Giant since that match happened at Starrcade, since he did not become the number one contender for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Commentators talk about how they have heard some things about Giant after Starrcade last night, as I just mentioned. Before Benoit can get away, he gets grabbed and choked slammed as well. Marcus Bagwell comes out to try to help out his fellow horseman, and he gets a choke slam as well. The Giant is then looking in rage as officials come out to try to stop him, but before they're able to fully stop him, he grabs Sting once again as Sting was trying to stagger up to his feet and connects with a second choke slam to him before finally leaving the ring. So Sting and two members of the Horsemen get laid out by the Giant, who clearly looks like a goddamn monster at this point. He is just out there wreaking havoc yet again, as he's done many times during 1996. It seems like 1997, more of the same from him. And we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see where things go from there. 87 rated for this segment. But Nitro itself, although that was the main event match, is not done. Because before the show signs off, we had a commercial break. We come back from the commercial break because we were told, it's one of those things where, like, even though there's still a little bit of time left, it's one of those things where, like, commercial break happens and then they come back and, the commentators are getting ready to be like, well, this is what, here's a brief recap of what happened tonight, and here's what to expect in 10 days' time at Clash of Champions and all that. But before we can end Nitro officially, we hear the music of the New World Order once again happening. As out comes Bret Hart, Ted DiBiase, and Eric Bischoff. The trio stay up on the stage, and Bischoff interviews Hart about Cactus Jack's comments earlier tonight, asking him what Cactus Jack had to, about Cactus Jack's comments really at all. Asking if he really connected with the challenger's words and how he always he's striving to strive to be the WCW World Heavyweight Champion and all that stuff. And Bret Hart just starts laughing. Bret Hart just finds that stuff hilarious. And says that Cactus doesn't have to worry about finding backup because he doesn't have to have the rest of the group show up in order to beat a garbage so-called wrestler like Cactus Jack. Bret Hart declares himself to be professional wrestling, says he can out-wrestle anyone in that ring. He doesn't have to resort to weapons and putting his body through hell to be the best. Of course, putting his body through hell is in, like, jumping off of things, crashing through tables, or big high spot moments, really. Before he's able to continue, though, he gets his words cut off, as once again we have an interrupted promo. He gets his words cut off by a garbage can crashing into the back of his head. It's none other than Cactus Jack standing there. Cactus Jack jumps on top of Hart, who got sent to the ground with that garbage can shot, and Jack starts slugging away at Hart as DiBiase and Bischoff are trying to get Cactus off of Bret Hart. The rest of the New World Order come out to attack Cactus, but Randy Savage shows up swinging a steel chair. Of course, we haven't heard from Randy Savage at all tonight, the former World Heavyweight Champion who lost the title last night to Bret Hart. Savage connects with a shot to Jerry Lynn's head, as well as a shot to the back of Sean Waltman, before Hart is able to somehow get away in the chaos of everything. Savage then chases after Bret Hart as Nitro comes to an end. 87 rating for the segment. Bret Hart may be super confident about being able to beat Cactus Jack, but he's got a pissed off Randy Savage after him. After what happened at Starrcade, Savage getting screwed out of the WCW World Heavyweight Championship by Eric Bischoff and Bret Hart, really, you gotta imagine that Savage is going to want some revenge, and he's coming for the head of Bret Hart at this point, it seems like. Nitro gets a 90 rating, that is. Increased popularity in 40 regions. Not quite our usual increase, but I'll take it still. You can't complain about 90 rating at all, for sure. And good stuff there. I don't remember if I mentioned it before, but I did find out that one Canadian region is the Maritimes, which is basically an impossible region to really get any sort of build in, so that's going to be a consistent thing on this for sure. Um, huh. Well, that's fun. Without revealing stuff on here, um, we've got some interesting contract stuff coming up for sure. Nevertheless, once again, the W for the week goes to WCW Monday Nitro with a 90 rating show. 6.166 million viewers now. We have broken the 6 million mark. Somehow we still dropped in ratings though, or in the ranking though. We finished below Roseanne, surprisingly enough. We were at like 4th or 5th the previous week, but somehow we dropped down to 6th now. But you know, we do what we can at this point. We'll still take 6th. Raw only had just under 2 million viewers, so a big time blowout by us for that. They had a 74 rated show, which was main evented by Diesel and The Undertaker taking on Brutus and Dennis Knight in what was clearly a rough show there. There's this stuff. Aja Kong, by the way, is the WWF Women's Champion, so that's something. That's kind of cool. But yeah, another victory for the good guys, so to speak, as WCW once again gets the victory. We will see you next week for Nitro, and then, of course, next Thursday for Clash of Champions. We have 3 title matches already on that show. Should be a few more as things play out. In fact, there is going to be a it wasn't actually announced during Nitro, but on WCW Saturday night there is going to be a number 1 contenders match for the newly crowned Women's World Championship. So we'll have to see who wins that one and kind of go from there. So thank you for watching. Definitely appreciate it. And I wish all of you a good one.